Oh, hey there. I'm Dave Hunt, owner of GameMasters Guild, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of The Art of the Master. In today's episode, I'm going to take a one-shot and turn it into a mini campaign and then expand upon it into a full-blown campaign. And I'm going to tell you how I do it, why I do it, and my ideas behind it. So why don't you come on with me and help me dispose of this, and let's check out The Art of the Master. Welcome back to The Art of the Master. If you remember a couple episodes ago, I did an episode on campaign design, specifically brainstorming. And then, last episode, I created a one-shot from scratch that should last you about 4 hours, give or take, depending on your party and how you lay everything out. Now, today I'm going to elaborate on that one-shot I did. But real quick, I'm going to do a little quick review on that one-shot. So, the one-shot that I had, it was a fantasy one-shot, and it was a rescue mission, and it was scheduled to last about 4 hours, give or take. It was located in the Kingdom of Sunset, which is named for its magnificent sunsets along the coast, and is ruled by King Landry, Lady Landry, and they have a daughter, Princess Ilea. In town, I didn't elaborate too much on the places, because I didn't feel they were going to be in town very long. There's a tavern very near to the port, right there dockside essentially. I didn't even bother to name it. Now, typically, I would probably throw a name on that. Just depends on how the game starts. The King's men came to the PCs and insisted that they come to the castle. And to avoid any fights, I changed it up to say that they quietly, or the captain of the guard, quietly says, we really need you to come to the castle. The king needs your help. So the PCs know they're not quite in so much trouble, and that's not how this adventure is going to start. So the PCs go to the king. The king says, the dragon Dogon flew in several nights ago and took my daughter. He's breathing fire and he flew away on great wings, and people in town saw him, and she's been gone ever since, and I need you to recover her. So the PCs gear up. The king maybe gives a few items as per their request, or maybe the PCs get let loose in town to buy whatever they need, maybe ask some of the townsfolk about Dogon, and pretty much the same story pops up. Everyone saw the dragon fly in. They could even see his wings fluttering in the wind. In the castle, some guards report as the dragon Dogon was taking Ilea, he used his fire breath to burn some men, and he flew away. And I didn't elaborate too much on it other than that. Now, when I got to the point to where the PCs left town, I only had one random encounter right about here on the way, which were some bandits, which was an incidental encounter, and not supposed to seriously hurt the players. However, at the same time, I've got it planned in Dogon's lair for them to pick up some healing potions, or perhaps they already did. Now, when the bandits waylay him on the way to Dogon's lair, I said they're basically really low level, and sure, I gave him multi-attack in order to run up to a player, make an attack, and then disengage, or not disengage, but break off so a player gets an opportunity attack, and then, and I'm using 5e rules here, and then run to attack another player just because it seems more dramatic and more interesting for me, and kind of spreading out the damage amongst the players, and even in some instances holding back on the damage if I have to, in order so the players don't get wiped by an incidental encounter. There's nothing terribly epic about that, especially since the bandits don't connect with anything with the rest of the adventure, or at least not yet. But that's my intent for a one-shot. So they get to the lair of Dogon. They scale down the face to the cave entrance. They don't have any means to fly, so they have to scale down or treacherously go across the rocky shore, which is a sheer drop into the ocean basically, and climb their way up. And either way, if anyone's failing any climbing checks, basically I just say they catch themselves, except that they take some slight falling damage. And again, I pull back on that, but it's definitely enough to hurt themselves. And it takes some damage. Or I may even say, if someone does slip and takes the damage, I say, look, I just rolled quite a bit on damage. If you want, you can take a penalty, some other penalty, instead of taking damage. I leave it up to the player. Something a little different. And a lot of my players will say, I'll take the penalty. It's not hit point damage. I say, no. Or I may even just outright say, look, if you slip, you take some damage, but tell you what, since you slipped, I'm gonna let you lose an item into the water instead of taking that damage. Or I'm gonna say, look, instead of taking that damage, especially since you took it a couple times, I'll forgive all that damage if you move 10 feet less around for the rest of this one shot. Basically simulating they pulled some muscles, they sprained their ankle, so they're favoring that a little more. Is 10 feet a lot? Yeah. But then when you look down at the layer later on, it's not a very big layer. It's not going to hurt them too much, but it will make an impact. They get to the layer. When they come into the layer, they immediately find a little storage area. They don't encounter any guards or anything like that. They encounter the storage area, which, if they don't already have some healing potions or I haven't scored them in town, I go ahead and put some healing potions here in the storage area. Typically, I like to give my players 5. If I got a 4-person group, I put 1 extra on there. And these are just the minimum hit point, the lowest hit point gaining healing potions that I can possibly find. Put them in here just so they've got something. And even if they've got a few other healing potions from town, I don't necessarily mind that they pick some up there. Now, as they come around, they find a room with Ilea being held captive very comfortably. Basically, she's got a nice bed, pillows, all this stuff. She's living lavishly, although a prisoner, because there's no way she can get out of here and climb up or go down. She's just stuck. And as the players continue to explore, they come across the lair of Dogon, which is just a dead-end room right here. And I've got 2 separate paths on purpose, so that way when I'm drawing out the map, they don't necessarily see all the way down here. But for a lower level adventure, probably going to have this illuminated, so if when they do get down here and they want to look around, they can see an illuminated area. Maybe there's a magic candle, which is another cool item to give out, or perhaps got a small oil lamp going, or maybe it's dark. But either way, so they get Ilea, they rescue her, and they say, and she doesn't know if Dogon is there or not, and she's frightened about the dragon as well. Now, if the players don't check out the lair and they're interested in grabbing Ilea and Bolton, either way, Dogon the dragon shows up. He flies in, lands with his large magic carpet. And at this point, Dogon is a man. He is a straight up man. Maybe give him a couple cool looking daggers, like those wavy Chris daggers. And maybe I'll wrap him up real cool and exotic looking. And I'd give him a ring, a magic ring. Last time I said I'd give it, in my last video, I said it'd be a magic ring with like the equivalent of burning hands once a day. But then I put the kibosh on that later in the episode, saying I think it might be better and more cool, especially for the players at lower level, to get a magic ring that has burning hands, except it's, you know, maybe 3 times a day, but it only does a D4 or a D6. So that way, to low level characters, this guy might seem like a dragon because he's breathing fire from his magic ring. But in the heat of the moment, people will mistake that as perhaps he's breathing from his mouth, especially if he has his hands up when he's using the ring and facing someone. However you need it to work out. So, anyways, so he shows up. Oh, yes. And the ring, anyways. Plus, it's cool for this magic ring. So that way, other than that, it's exactly the same as Burning Hands, except it just does less damage. And that way, when the players eventually kill Dogon, which they will, then they'll have this magic ring. Or it's possible they may decide to capture him and turn them in to the proper authorities, to the king, for proper punishment, which would earn extra points. And as a DM, I might even kind of lay that out there, just to kind of put that seed in their mind. Because then, if Dogon is returned to the king, you know what that is? Later on, he's a returning villain. Not right away, but later on he can be. But if they outright kill him, not a problem. I can make another one, mold him, and send him out in the world if I need to. Not a problem. So anyways, I run combat all through here. And how do I do combat? Well, it's quite simple. It doesn't matter if the players grab Ilea, immediately try to leave. He shows up. Oh, how dare you enter my lair and take my woman? How dare you take my prize? Or however you want to phrase it. Everybody roll initiative. Or there's a lookout. He lands. One of the players, whoever's being the lookout, is like, hey, this guy's coming. Let's get ready to fight. And there's a fight somehow, some way. Or he surprises the players while they're checking out his lair. And then a fight ensues. Ilea, the princess, I use her as just total useless. She's just background. I don't use her, give her any special skills or abilities. I make sure she doesn't get hurt either. So I say, oh, she runs off. Oh, she dodges. Oh, she disengages. And if she does catch a little, like, an extra crossbow bolt, or if I do want Dogon to come attack her, you know, it's always minimal damage. She'll take damage, but she's going to be okay. And if she does, if I want to push it, which I kind of really don't want to involve her because she's something that I can use later. And the big thing is for the players to fight Dogon and rescue her. And if Dogon took her, he's going to not necessarily want to kill her. But if somehow, some way, there's some reason that she takes damage, I'll try to minimize that, make it seem dangerous. Like, oh, she's taking damage. She's gone down. She went prone. She'd go prone automatically if she gets hit for damage. That's just what I would say. To protect herself, and she'd attempt to get away. At least get away from the combat. Either behind the players or back to her room or maybe the storeroom. So the players will fight Dogon, and how I'm going to do this is I don't want to seem Dogon to be a pushover, especially if the players get really lucky really early with some high 20 rolls and I suck at some of my rolls. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to be using that ring of reduced fire breathing, or I'm sorry, burning hands. So I'm going to use that, so that way players got to make a dex save. And at lower levels, should be a little bit harder. They'll take a little burn damage, whew, and they'll feel some heat from combat, so to speak, and it'll feel dangerous. And you know, then I can have Dogon use his daggers and everything. But what I'm going to do is, no matter how much damage the players do to him, first round, I'm going to let everybody get a swing at him, and hit or miss, let everybody get a swing at him, and then Dogon is still alive. That way, I want Dogon to be able to fight twice, because it's 4 players on 1 guy. So I want this to be epic for them, even at level 1. I want them to feel like they're in danger. I want them to feel like this is epic, like this is a real rescue the princess moment. And just because we're level 1, this is like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm on pins and needles. I don't know if we're going to live or die. And with the healing potions, guaranteed someone's going to live and be able to administer the healing potions to any characters that are still down. Now, everybody gets a good swing on Dogon, and want Dogon to be in combat at least twice. So I'm going to give him multi-attack. So why? Because I'm the Dungeon Master and I can do anything. Oh, but Dave, 5th edition, that's not how that works. It does when I'm Dungeon Master, because I want this guy to not be like the players. I'm going to give him multi-attack, and you know what? I'm going to bend and break the rules a little bit in order for the game to be fun. So what's going to happen? He's going to come over here on Dogon's turn. He might run up, slash somebody, and then he'll go ahead and break away from hit or miss. He'll move part of his movement, slash at somebody, and it doesn't matter if he hits or misses, then he'll back away, allowing that character to not have an attack of opportunity. So we're doing a lot of cool combat stuff. He backs away, gets a different angle, and then uses his magic ring to attempt to hit somebody or a couple of people with his burning hands spell that's watered down, that's coming out of his ring. Why? Because it's cool. He's moving fast, he's attacking somebody with his knife, he's turning around, he's breathing fire, and you know what I do? If that knife digs into a player, I automatically say, give me a con save. What? Give me a con save. Is it poison? Give me a con save. Let them roll, and whatever the results say, oh, if it's 10 or less, I'll go, oh, okay. But if it's higher than that, I'll be like, oh, good job, you made it. Is it poison? No. But I'm not going to tell them that. I'm not going to tell them that. Now, what I might do later, though, is when it comes up, hey, I failed that con save earlier. Was that poison? Am I feeling sick? What's going on? I say, well, you don't you don't really feel that bad, but you do feel a little disoriented, lightheaded, and that really seems to be all. And so maybe the poison didn't take, or is a very mild effect poison. Essentially, I just want to keep him on his toes and make him worried and make him feel like the threat is real. But for me, I don't need it to be. Now, is it always like that? Oh no, I don't always just put fluff out there and disguise it. I don't always bluff. But in certain instances, it works. Because when you bluff a little bit, you can amp things up without the players really being in danger, but they don't know. And immediately after you do something like that, you can't say, I really wasn't poisoned, there wasn't nothing, I was just trying to make you sweat. I don't tell them that. I might tell them 6 months from now when we're playing something else. Like, oh yeah, oh shit, I was just bluffing, that's part of my tactics. But if I tell them too close to when this game has happened, then it'll lessen it a little bit. And further on down, you might think it would lessen it, but no, because that's part of the fun, And odds are good, they'd even forget about it and wouldn't even ask me whether or not it was really poison on there. And more than likely, what I would probably do is tell them, well, it was a very light-acting poison, and it wasn't very good. And as a matter of fact, you even find some in storage, but come to find out when you get it evaluated that it's not very good. All it does is makes people feel a little queasy and dizzy, and that's it. So it's not any good, and you guys have to just throw it away. Or maybe they want to keep it. I just throw it in there just cuz. So if they focus on it, I give them a little bit of something. Or I just tell them, don't worry about it, Don't worry about it, it was nothing, you're better, there's no samples. It's however you want to do it in the moment. So anyways, I want Dogon to at least get 2 good rounds in for him to fight. And then after that, next round, we're on. So what I'll do is then on top of whatever he's got, I determine what kind of damage players have been dealing. I'll probably throw out put 15 hit points on top of them and say, all right, here we go, going to 3rd round. Now he's actually got hit points and players start fighting him. And then at some point, someone's going to kill him. Someone's going to take him down and that player gets the kill. And I try to dress it up as epically as possible. Even if it's a guy like, I pull out my dagger and I stab him. Oh, he only had 1 hit point left. 9 times out of 10, I do my best to not say, and he only had 1 point left. I just, and he's dead. No, I try to let the players keep it. If they got dice to roll. And then, if he's got sneak attack bonus and on top of his regular attack, or someone else gave him an extra bonus of damage, or he's using abilities, something, anything, I let him roll dice. How many more? Yep. Oh, you just do it. And then I'll stand up and I'll say, so Dogon, I redo the scene for everybody. So for the killing blow. So Dogon stands there, and then so-and-so does this and so-and-so does that. Then you draw your knife and you come at him and he looks at you. He's got death in his eyes, and you swing your knife and he moves just a little bit and you slice him, you hit him right up in the armpit, and then as he moves, you come down, blood sprays all over the place, and he's like, no! And then as a reaction, and they're like, what? As a reaction, he puts out his hand, you see the ring, eyes of the ring glow, and you see it start to heat up. A little like a flame comes out, and he falls to the ground. Boom! And you have vanquished Dogon the dragon. That's something to that effect. Kind of want to dress it up. It's always nice. You don't have to always dress up the kills, but it's kind of fun, especially when they defeat the boss character. Goblins and bandits, they're a dime a dozen, and you just let the players cut through them like a hot knife through butter. But for big baddies, you got to kind of make it feel a little epic. At the very least, just stand up. All right, you have vanquished Dogon the dragon, but you need to describe how he falls to your blade or arrow or magic spell, whatever. Give us how epic it is. And a lot of DMs do that. They throw it on the player and say, tell us how you take care of Dogon the dragon. Tell us how you eliminate him. And they're more than happy to elaborate. Oh, I jump up and do a double spin kick, or I take my knife, I spin it on my finger, and I throw it at him and kill him. Doesn't matter. It's whatever the player wants. Why? Because it's fun. Because remember, your players want to have the same kind of adventures that they see on TV, on their favorite movies. So you need to give it to them. Give it to them. And if you got to bend and break the rules sometimes, do it. So now, at this point, the players, And in this one shot, I've determined that Dogon, they'll probably eliminate him. They'll return the wayward Princess Aelia to her home, and the king will be very happy. And I even discussed that last time the king could be so happy as he could give them a small cottage in town where they could always come to rest their heads whenever they wanted to. And maybe people in town will be very delighted that they got rid of Dogon the dragon, because they were always afraid of him. And so people might give him discounts in town and all that. Every now and then they might get a free round of drinks at the tavern. Why not? Why not? Level 1, already feeling epic, getting the epic treatment, and being treated like the heroes they are. I know what it says in the D&D books about 1 to 4, 5 to 10, 11 to 15, 16 to 20, and how the players slowly get more known over time. But after something like this, even a low-level adventure, the local townsfolk, they're going to be all over that. And let them bask in that glory. You might as well. Now, in my previous video, where I was talking about this one shot, it sounded like, and I reviewed it, I watched all my own stuff, and it sounded like I really have a total disregard for the rules or dice rolls or mechanics, and that's not exactly true. I have a total regard for the fun the players are having at the table, including myself. Fun is priority. The mechanics are second for me. I want to feel epic. I want to have a good time. And there are plenty of times, especially during a boss fight, where I'll come up from behind the screen. Most of my rolls are behind the screen if I'm using it, or shielded by my hand. But during bigger boss fights like this, I will not hesitate to lean up over the screen and roll every single roll right where everybody can see it. Now, when I roll damage, I'll just quick grab damage and throw it down behind my screen so I can pull that back if I need to. Depends on what the adventure wants. Now, as DM, you're always going to know, sometimes better than your players, what they're going to be able to take, who's going to live, who's going to die, what the fallout's going to be, and you can tweak that. Now, it sounds like I'm a guy who, refuses to let a character die. That's not true. I get a lot of guys that die in my campaigns, but also, too, because it's fantasy, there's a lot of ways to bring characters back from the dead. And also, too, just because you come back from the dead doesn't mean it should be nice and easy or fun. You could always add some extra problems in there with returning from the dead, but we'll cover that much, much later on. We're not even worried about that now. But don't sweat it. Don't sweat it. And there are fates worse than death. Kind of like and damage, just like I was talking about here with the climbing. So all that's resolved. Now I'm going to kind of wait a moment for you to kind of take a look, if you want to pause and take a look at my map one more time. This is the top view of Dogon's lair, storage, Aelia, the lair. And in my last episode, at the very end, I had a spot where I had just a picture of this for about 15 or 20 seconds you could have frozen onto. You could have stopped the video at, you could have stopped the video last episode and take a look at this. This is a little cleaner version. So this right here is the lair of Dogon. This is the sea cliff right here where Dogon's lair is. You got some woods up there. You got the path that goes to the castle, to the town, to the lair, or to the woods up above the lair. And got mountains in the back. The castle rests on this hill. There's more woods to the south. And here, I always got my little direction compass there. Northwest, east, south, this way. And this view is from as if you were at sea, viewing the coast. So you can see what it is here, how the general lay of the land is. And again, I always have my compass here, so that way people know the rough orientation. So if you got players that want to map it out, they can. And that much better if they do, less work on you, and you have notes for next time. And if I were you, I'd go ahead and take notes of this anyways, because this, you could expand upon this heavily. And that's what we're going to do in today's episode. All right. So give me just a second. I'm going to clean this off and we're going to right back to it. And there we go, all clean. Now, let's take a look at some of our earlier notes for sunset. So it's located on the coast. We've got three main NPCs: King Landry, Lady Landry, Princess Ilea, and I believe I neglected to write down one NPC, and that was the Captain of the Guard, and that was, I believe it was, Joe Quinn. So we've got four main NPCs. The only real places other than the castle and the lair of Dogon the Dragon is the tavern, which I haven't even named yet. We need to probably go ahead and name that port. Let's call it the Dead Crab. And the tavern owner, I don't know, Otis speaks to me for some reason. So Otis is the owner. Now, what did we get out of this previous adventure? Well, first of all, the players are in good with the king, the queen, and the princess. So, possibilities. So let's see here. First we're going to write rewards. And 1, in good with the locals. So the players are in good with the locals. Remember, I wanted to give the players a cottage. The king was more than happy to give the players a small cottage so they could rest their heads and have a base of operations. And that's kind of important to an adventuring group. Now, if you decide to take these guys and travel the plains or move them on someplace else and not play in this area ever again, well, then I guess you don't need all this stuff. But you've already got some of these details written out. Plus, there's so much more you can do, and that's what we're here for, is to take this one shot and expand it. So the players got a cottage, they're in good with the locals, and also too, on top of that, we're going to say the players get discounts, and that's going to be super important, I think, especially for the group that's just starting out. This isn't a great, huge metropolis or anything, and they won't be able to find really awesome magic stuff or gear, but the basics should pretty much be here and be available for the players. Now let's take a look and see what else we can do here. We need to probably elaborate. There probably also is a general store in the kingdom, and they would have already met this owner, I'm sure. And if not, that's definitely something you could do, is you could have them meet the general store owner, and we'll say it's Corella. And Corella is a dwarven fighter. What I might do is I make him up, say he's a level 3 fighter, so maybe he's got some stories. Maybe he retired from adventuring because, well, he just liked the merchant life better. So there already, we've got another NPC there with a little bit of backstory. Super brief, retired because he liked being a merchant better and he didn't like risking his life. So there we go, we've got another character right there. What else is going to come of all this? Okay, so something else we can do is 4. Everyone in the town now knows them. And now everyone's problem is now their problem. So what I can easily do is I can spend the next few sessions laying down some groundwork for people who have other problems in town. In one of my last 2 videos, I can't remember exactly which one, but there was a farmer who had a problem with creatures killing his cattle. So, and that ended up being a mated pair of bullets underground, and their young was coming up and eating the cattle. So there's an idea right there. Even something mundane as wolves. You could even use wolves to kill this guy's cattle. Plus, on top of that, you could disguise wolves as something else. And how do we end up get the players involved? Well, the farmer comes to town and he says, look, I heard about what you did for the king's daughter, and, you know, will you help me too? I don't have much, but I'd pay you whatever I could. You know, I mean, you know, we've got food, I've got a couple of good horses I can trade you. Low-level players, they'll need horses, you know, if you hadn't already given them to them. Even as DM, you can say, well, you know, you are promoting goodwill within the kingdom by helping out this farmer, and after all, you guys are local celebrities, and that will just help you even more. And most players will probably bite on this anyways. So you could go out and have them, if you don't want to use the boulette idea, you could use wolves. I've done this before too. You could use the wolves. You could dress it up as lycanthropes. And if you want to dress it up even more, you could literally have the players see wolfmen running around in the forest just beyond the field. I mean, maybe they're sitting there at the field like, what is that? And it's way across there, where even most characters would have disadvantage trying to shoot their bows so far and trying to hit the character. And they would only glimpse them for a moment. And it's far too far for the players to reasonably cover that distance, especially at such low level. You know, it's only 600-700 feet. I mean, there's no way the players are going to be able to get across an open field, catch that guy before he disappears in the woods. And to me, players lose sight of him in the woods, he's gone. Why? Because I say so. That's why. Let the players make all the checks and rolls you want. You just say, he evaporates. And that's all you can find. You can't find anything. Why? Because it serves the story. Just tell him he's that good, or there's a rocky path, or he hits a stream. He must have gone up or down the stream. You don't know which, and he had such a lead on you. There's no way you're going to find him, at least not right now. It doesn't seem like. Plus also too, you can let the players run around in the woods trying to find this guy, and you can amp up the tension, maybe have some other encounters, some quick encounters, maybe a giant spider or something like that to dress it up and to give them something to do. And that way, you could easily spend half a session dealing with this, just the beginnings of this. This right here, with the farmer, is potentially a one-shot all unto itself. And these mysterious men, or these wolf men, are actually bandits dressed in wolf hides. But they wear them over their heads, and they use the rest of the hide like cloaks. So from a distance, from a great distance, they look like humanoid wolves or lycanthropes. So that's definitely something. Remember, you want to dress up your NPCs, especially your villains, and make them look like something else. And see, I have a reason, because of the distance, I have a reason for the players not to reveal them as anything but normal men. And then what you do is at night, then the wolves come. And now how does that work? Is it convenient? It is convenient, but maybe these bandits, they actually have trained the wolves. So they've got a wolf pack, a sizable wolf pack, and they send in like 2 or 3 at a time. And these guys can actually end up being very dangerous because they have a much larger pack in addition to 4 or 5 of their own men back at their camp deep, deep in the woods. And I gotta tell you, even for slightly higher level players, like about level 3, a wolf pack, even just a 2 or 3, you know, to me a pack of wolves is like 6 or 7, but even just 2 or 3 wolves, because they got pack tactics, they will tear up some characters. I have almost party wiped characters because I'll just have them run across the wolf pack, a little quick encounter, be all right. Oh my God, everyone's dying. So you want to be careful about that. You really do. So you got to kind of pace yourself a little bit. And one thing's for sure, you'll definitely add on to some tension. So anyways, you've got these bandits dressed in wolf skins, and we'll say there's 5 or 6 of them. And they also have a pack of wolves, we'll probably say 7 to 8, and they only send in a couple at a time to harass the farmer, and mostly just to kill the farmer's cows. And what are the bandits doing in the meantime? It's hard to say. Why are they doing this? Maybe they're not doing it necessarily to harass the farmer. Maybe they're doing it because it's an easy kill for the wolves. Or the wolves go, they kill the cattle, then the men come out and they cut up the rest of it, and that's how they're surviving. They're preying on the fringes of society at sunset, and they're using the wolves and the wolf skins to disguise themselves as such, so they can pass themselves off as much more difficult creatures and to keep people out of the woods at night, and even the king's men, to keep them out from the woods at night. And you could play this quite a while, and you could even get to the point to where these men become so emboldened, they actually try to maybe attack the farmer at his place one night. And you could really dress this up almost as a tenseful slasher kind of movie, where the players look out and they see out in the middle of the yard of the farmhouse, you know, they see this wolf man standing there, and they go to the door to run out, and he's not there anymore. How do you get away with it? Man, you just tell him he's gone, you know, and that'll lend a little more supernatural air to them a little bit. Because remember, Now, how do you practically get him out of there? He runs really fast, you know. Instead of moving 30 feet, he moves 60 feet and hides. And are you worried about skill checks? Yes and no, but remember, you're just trying to amp up the tension. So what the players see, what you describe, is going to be a wolf man standing in a yard. And even with night vision, even with torches, even with fires outside, these men's form are going to be distorted because they're wearing the wolf heads and the wolf skins as cloaks. And they might tie them down real tight to their bodies so it looks like furry arms and furry chest and everything like that. Play with their minds. Treat it like a slasher movie. You know, it seems like every time you turn around, there's the wolf man walking towards them. And because there's 5 or 6 of these guys, 2 or 3 can go to the farmhouse and antagonize the players and the farmer, and 3 men can make it seem like one guy is everywhere at the same time. And they can use terror to their advantage when messing with the farmer and the players. And another thing, why just isolate this to one farmhouse? Why not spread it out? Everyone, the farmer can say, oh yeah, you know, come help me and see what's going on with these wolves, and the players see the wolf man, and maybe the players kill 1 or 2 wolves and like, see, these aren't werewolves at all. There's regular wolves preying on your cattle. I guess we're done here. And then the farmer can be like, well, I figured that some of the wolves were just normal wolves, but what about that? And as he points across the field in the dim light of dusk, you see a lone wolfen humanoid standing there staring back before he disappears into the woods. And the player's gonna be like, oh crap, there really is a lycanthrope there. But really it's not. And then the farmer can elaborate and say, yeah, well, it's not just me. Everybody's been having this trouble. And it's not just me. So now the players have to worry about not just this guy, but many other farmers as well. And perhaps they stake out this guy's place one night, but then yet again, an attack happens at a different farmhouse. Why? Probably because there's 1 or 2 of these bandits. They spend time in town getting intel, and then they walk out of town, and then a couple other guys come in, and these guys take turns coming back to town. And does anyone notice? It's a sufficiently big town. People come and go all the time. And there's plenty of people who have little cottages and farms and logging camps all around the countryside. So who's going to notice a couple nondescript guys coming in and listening to what everyone else is saying and coming back and telling the rest of their group that, hey, we know where these heroes are going to be the next couple nights, so we can go attack someplace else. And then on top of that, if you want to, you can work the whole town up in a frenzy because they don't know who's a lycanthrope and who's not. And you could have a whole, we don't know who is who in town, and you could have literally almost like a, like a riot with guys with torches and pitchforks accusing other people, and the players trying to defend perhaps maybe the tavern owner or the general store owner who they're already have kind of gotten to know a little bit from the purchases and stuff and their interactions. And you make it so to where the players can vouch for these people and say, hey, we know these guys are good because they couldn't have possibly attacked this farmer's place if we were here drinking with them the other night. But you could create some real tense RP sessions with people wanting justice and thinking that someone is lycanthrope when clearly they're not. So that's something to consider. And you could run this easy, this idea, 2 or 3 sessions you could drag this out. And this is just really a side thing that has branched off from this main one-shot. So already you've got like 2 one-shots kind of all together. And what's nice is because this is literally its own one-shot, just from a handful of notes I got right here, since this one-shot, which is essentially it is, since it occurs in the same place as the previous one-shot, it still expands on this. You're expanding your own world. Every time you do a one-shot and you keep it in the same area, it expands on what you already have there. And once you resolve this right here, and nothing says you have to resolve this right here, No, you could go a night or two and run this, and then very easily, you could say someone sets fire to the general store. And what happens to Corella? Let's say he survives. And in the middle, literally in the middle of the players trying to resolve this whole werewolf lycanthrope one shot with the farmers, let's say you have one session with this, and then you plan to wrap it up the second session. Well, in the second session, you don't wrap this up. You go straight over here and have the dwarven fighter, Corella, come up to the players and say, hey, my general store burned down last night, and I believe it was on purpose. And maybe you give Corella some evidence as to why. Maybe someone rolled a cart behind his store, piled full of hay, and lit it up. And of course, it just caught the whole general store on fire and burned it down. And he wants the players to try and figure out who would do such a thing. Now, who would do such a thing? Unsavory competitors. And that's something you might want to remember. Greed. Okay, now enough of that. What else can we do? First of all, since it's a port town, there's always ship adventures. Because it's a port town, how convenient, your players can now travel to anywhere else they want by booking passage. And that's something your players can spend all their money on, is hiring a ship or maybe even buying their own kind of beat up ship, and off they go. Great time for a seaborne adventure, especially if a ship comes in and it's offloading, and the only thing they're offloading is wounded men. So what has happened? Well, quite simply, pirates. So now you can load your players up on the ship, get them out there to go help with the piracy on the high seas. And of course, it can be another ship with just men, or you could have crewed by monsters, or whatever you want to do, or maybe it's some kind of mer creature that comes out of the water, and some deep spawn or other creatures that come out, some Sagwan, whatever you want to attack people just off the coast. Or maybe even the town's fishing is impacted because maybe some Saugan moved into the area, or deep spawn, or anything that you want, and they don't want the locals fishing in the area. So that's something else you can do too. And you can literally, when the players finish up with rescuing the princess, they could be sitting at the tavern and a man could come in. You could have the farmer come in and say, hey, I've got this problem. Will you guys come check it out? But, I've got to do some things in town. So come out later this evening and come help me with these wolves that are attacking my cows. And the players will be like, okay, later this evening, no problem. He gives them directions and everything. So he goes off, and by telling the players you have to come later in the evening, gives the players plenty of time to do miscellaneous stuff in town. And to think about it, maybe they go buy some traps or something like that, anticipating laying them out for the wolves. But while they're doing that, ship comes in, there's a bunch of hubbub and talk, and a bunch of carts going by with wounded men to the healers, and like, what's going on? Oh, a ship just pulled in the port, and they just got attacked by pirates or deep spawn or whatever the case may be. And someone, of course, knowing the players' great deeds, word gets around quick, and the first mate or the captain comes up to the players, or one of them, and says, hey, I need your help. I've heard that you guys have just defeated a dragon. You've got to come help me. You've got to come help me. And of course, the captain can throw money his way, or maybe he also has a smaller, not so well-off ship that he has docked as well as this nice new big ship he's got, and he'll give it to the players if they can help him. Oh my gosh, Dave, your players aren't even level 5 and you're going to give them a ship just for helping some other dude with a mission? Yes, I am. Why not? Why not? Does it make any sense? Would it really happen? I don't know. It's fantasy. I'm going to have fun. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give them a ship if they help these guys. Now, the ship's not going to be terribly too good. They're going to have some work on it. Plus, I can easily have stuff break at the most inopportune time when the players get this old beat up ship, and I specify that, but also I specify that it's free. And there might be a couple cool little perks in there. Maybe the ship is small and fast and agile, so even though as they outmaneuver bigger ships, they can hear the whole ship groan and maybe a mast breaks, but it spins around super fast and, you know, gives them extra bonus at sea or something. I don't know. You figure it out. And plus, I'll be covering these kind of things in other episodes as well. I mean, we could talk forever about seafaring adventures, but that's just giving you a little quick taste. So, they rescue the princess, and the next day, the farmer comes up and the captain of a ship comes up and gives them 2 other adventures. And then, after they check out one of them, someone else comes up, or I'm sorry, the general store owner comes up and tells the players the next day, after day 1, the farmer comes up and says, hey, my general store burned down. I need some help. And they still have this whole ship thing going on. So this right here is 3 one-shots the players get to deal with. But now it's getting to be a mini campaign because these are all linked together. So rescuing the princess is supposed to last a night, but if you take your time, you can make this a 2-nighter for rescuing the princess. You really can. You really can. Don't rush. Talk it out with the players. Do some RP. You get into doing some RP. If you want to, have a little barroom brawl. How do you do it? Guys throw down their weapons. The guy unhooks his sword belt and says, we'll fight. Let's go. And you just do fists. Fist, 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 fist. You know, whoever gets knocked out, and you say, and basically this is what I would tell players so they don't worry too much or go overboard. Say, so he takes off his sword belt. He wants to fight you with fists. And this is how it's going to happen. So basically, if you guys go to fight, basically whoever gets down to 0 hit points is actually just knocked out. And that's it. And then you'll be at half hit points when you wake up. And that's all I'd say, you know. So it's just a good fist fight, you know, just so players know what you want to do. And then they have a different mindset instead of life or death. It's just this fist fight. And you just adjust the brawl appropriately. That's what I do. Is it in the rules? No, but that's what I'm going to do. Why? Because it's fun. Or maybe I wrangle them into a friendly competition in town. Maybe some of the guys are drinking there and like, you defeated the dragon. You need to come and show us how to throw knives. And they put down some gold, and you describe how the knife throwing goes, and everybody has to roll, and it's best out of 3, and then there's trick shots, so you gotta throw blindfolded, you gotta throw at disadvantage, and maybe they're buying each other drinks, and you can just RP it up very easily, and on top of that, have the players make some contacts with some locals in town, like maybe some guys who are doing timbering just outside town, or maybe some of the local toughs. So that when the players need some help and they spend some time drinking and throwing knives with these guys, or even after a good barroom brawl with these guys, they'll be like, oh, you know, you're not too bad. You're not too bad. I'll drink with you anytime. Even after a barroom brawl. Okay. You know, you could stop right in the middle of the brawl and the guy goes, he laughs and buys everybody drinks and says, drinks on me. I like you. And then later, if players need some help, they can go to this tough and say, hey, you might buy a couple drinks and, you know, I got something for you. You can throw a little gold your way if you help us out. Oh, I'd love to help you. You're my favorite drinking buddy. Man, you can just amp it up like that. No problem. And the thing is, take your time. If you're not in a hurry, man, take your time. And you should never be in a hurry anyways. Now, if things are starting to get really slow and people are on their phones and people are talking and it's not even game related and they're doing a lot and no one's paying attention, you should probably speed it up just a little bit. But stay focused, stay on track, get some RP going, get everybody involved a little bit. You know, it's great. And even if some of the other players are just watching, like there's 1 or 2 guys throwing daggers, you keep it short and sweet and make it fun. And you'll be able to get these guys sucked right into it. Just do little stuff like that, just something to get you thinking. So you can actually, like I said, you can stretch this one-shot, Rescuing the Princess, into 2-nighter. The farmer can easily be a 2-nighter. That's 4 sessions. The ship is definitely going to be 2 sessions. So that's 6 sessions right there. That's like a month and a half already. 6 sessions. Once a week for 4 hours, that's 6 sessions. That's not too bad already. We're getting up into that mini campaign bracket where I want to be 6 to 12, 8 to 10, right somewhere in there. So 6 to 12 sessions right in there. That's perfect. And we still haven't resolved this guy right here where his place burned down, and you could easily just make that a one-nighter. Boom, there's 7 sessions. There you go. That's your whole mini campaign. Boom. And pretty much you're done. All it is just a bunch of one-shots sewn together. And this is where you can blow this up into a continual campaign. Now, I love me some Deep Spawn, so I'm going to say it's all the Deep Spawn's fault. And I think Deep Spawn are in Volo's guide, I'm pretty sure. So you might want to check them out. Plus I got a lot of cool, weird Deep Spawn-esque kind of miniatures from an old Mage Knight game, Clicks game, where I popped them off the bases and re-glued them to 1-inch bases. Gives me a reason to use them. And this general store thing, this is just real kind of side stuff, but it's just something to maybe make it feel a little more real. And just to give something different. It's always not monsters, sometimes it's just people. Now, so this is the mini campaign. Once they resolve all these small campaign items, the farmer, the ships, the burnt down general store, then that's done. That's your little mini campaign, and we're done. And you could probably end on the ship being the biggest thing that you had. So you'd start off with the rescue of the princess, you'd run with the farmer thing, and maybe halfway through that, or partway through that, either third or halfway through that, you'd introduce the ship, but you'd also run the burning down of the dwarf's general store, and then you finish up the farmer thing, and then you go straight to finishing up the ship at sea, fighting either the pirates or the Deep Spawn, which I like Deep Spawn, because then you really get some good monsters in here. And that can easily last you, like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sessions right there. Again, you can make your rescue of the princess 2 sessions, the general store 1, the farmer and the wolves, that can be 3 sessions, and then the Deep Spawn, that's 2 more with the pirate ship, or not the pirate ship, but the ship being attacked by pirates, which end up being Deep Spawn, that's 8 sessions, and then your fantasy campaign is wrapped up. You wrap it up on the high seas, because that's going to be the most epic part about this mini campaign, and boom, you're done. Now, how do we make this into a bigger campaign? Okay, well, first of all, if they didn't kill Dogon the dragon and they turned him in, well, instantly right there, Dogon is your culprit for a lot of this. Everything else runs as normal, but Dogon the dragon, you make him behind the Deep Spawn. The bandits are actually his men, and he's taught them how to use terror to great effectiveness. So right there, you've got the guy behind all this other stuff happening. I wouldn't worry about that fire thing so much at the general store, but Dogon, maybe he worships a sea god, and the Deep Spawn are under his control. It's like a reward for him being loyal to whatever evil god he prays to. Or maybe he has an item that compels the Deep Spawn to obey him. And again, he knows these bandits, he's rewarded them well, taught them what he knows, and has provided for them so they can create terror. And even though he's incarcerated, the Deep Spawn and the bandits dressed as wolves, dressed as werewolves, they continue to do what they need to do. Now they're going to know that their master's been imprisoned, and it wouldn't be anything for the bandits, who no one really knows on site in town because they just look like average Joes, and they probably have a good cover story like, well, I work at a lumberyard part-time, I work in town part-time, helping at the tavern or the inn, or I work for the cobbler, or I'm a carpenter, and when people need me, I'm around, I'm a handyman, I work on this farm, I work on that farm. Well, that's another thing too. These bandits, they can literally be farm hands. Oh yeah, I know those guys, yeah, they just work for me part-time, And what's nice is the bandits who are working as farm hands can easily set up the players, or set it up to where the players don't run into the other bandits or the wolves, or maybe they do. There's a lot of interesting things you can do right there with that. And on top of that, maybe one of the bandits, maybe he actually works in the castle. Maybe he works there as he's not part of the official personnel of the castle, but maybe he's like a militiaman. So even though the king has his own captain of the guard and their own troops, maybe they hire out a bunch of the locals to provide additional security in the town and in and around the castle. Maybe one of the guys there is a servant, or he's a local repairman, and he comes and he's well known, and this guy gets in, finds a way to free Dogen, or better yet, one of the bandits comes in because he's so loyal, takes Dogen's spot, and guy has a disguise kit, goes in, gets up to Dogen's place. Since the bandit is so well known and people like him, he's able to get past the guards and goes and gets Dogen out of his cell and uses a disguise kit to disguise Dogen. They switch clothes and off Dogen goes and literally walks out and just leaves, just flat out leaves, walks out. And Dogen has a backup hiding place, which he'll go to because that's where the bandits are at. So once the players realize that Dogen has escaped, now we're getting to a larger campaign. Where did Dogen go? The players are going to immediately go back to his sea cave, but he's not that stupid to go there. And if the players had left anything at the sea cave, when they return, they see that it's all been cleaned out. Why? Because the bandits have already been there to take everything out. So there you go. And then Dogen will have a backup place where he's going to be. So now Dogen is back out there and he's going to be looking for some vengeance. And right there, you can have Dogen do a lot of stuff. And now obviously if he's got a backup place, you can hook Dogen up with some other stuff. Oh, and that's another reason why Dogen would seem like a dragon to people, because on a large flying carpet, flying away from the castle, especially at night, things are hard to judge. Distance is hard to judge at night, especially when your town's lit up by, well, torches, you know, and you hear a flapping. That's easily going to be mistaken for a dragon, and you can make it seem like it. But so Dogen goes back to his place, and he recoups, he rests, gets re-equipped, and he's ready to strike back out and cause some havoc with the players. Not directly, you know, that's foolish, but indirectly. Perhaps the deep spawn, there's an undersea passage that goes to the castle that links up to the moat. And you can say there's a moat around the castle, and that's something to remember too. Details, details, details. Or if you already said there's no moat, well, it doesn't make any sense. You know, I already told them that there's no moat around there. Well, that's okay. There can be an undersea passage cut out along the coast that happens to run right up underneath the castle. And maybe it's a forgotten part of the castle. When they were building, they broke through. It's a forgotten part, so they patched it all up. That's how the deep spawn get in to rescue Dogen. And as a matter of fact, because it's the lowest part of the castle, you could easily use that area to house Dogen. So the deep spawn go, they quietly break in, and Dogen leaves through that undersea tunnel. But wait, he can't hold his breath? That's okay, the deep spawn take care of him. Maybe they give an amulet of water breathing or a ring, so that way he can successfully swim out with the deep spawn and make his escape. You could also even say the deep spawn make a potion, or they are knowledgeable enough to make a potion of water breathing, and he drinks it and he can swim out. And that's evidence that can be left behind, and if there's a wizard in the group or a sorcerer, they can analyze it and determine, he escaped through this underwater passage. Someone broke him out. He escaped through this underwater passage by using a potion of water breathing, because no normal person could swim that far and make it out in time before drowning. And also too, if people don't know about the deep spawn, if the players don't know about the deep spawn, you could make it easily seem that Dogen, perhaps he's strong enough to break out. And so they're gonna think, well, man, is he more than he seems? And he's really just a man and has help. So, and you could even have a guard, a panicked guard, you know, hear a rumbling sound, which is basically the deep spawn, you know, all at once. Maybe if they half a dozen of them, you know, pounding on the wall and breaking the wall, and the wall kind of falls into the cavernous area, and all the guard sees, he hears it, he runs to Dogen's cell, and all he sees is Dogen look back and smile. He jumps in the cavern, the darkened cavernous area, and a second later, he hears the sound of breaking glass and a giant splash, which is much louder than any one man could possibly make, which is really Dogen and the Deep Spawn all jumping in the water at once. And the glass breaking is him throwing the potion bottle to the ground after he's already drunk it. So right there you go. And of course that panicked guard, he's going to be like, oh, he must have turned back into a dragon and swam out. There you go. So now Dogen's reputation precedes himself even more. It grows now, and the players second guess themselves. Man, did we really catch him that easy? What's going on? So there's a lot of things to chew on, and with this, you could run this for a while. This is great. This is good stuff right here. I really like it because you could really run it with Dogen. And then you could have yet again, at some point, another final meeting with Dogen where the players are like, all right, this time, we're not taking you back. It's all or nothing. And you can, even though the players have gotten higher in level, you make Dogen higher level. And this last battle with Dogen, whenever they go to finally meet him again and finally have a final fight with him, well, then it's all or nothing. And you pull out all the stops, roll them dice in front. However they fall, throw damage, grab those damage dice, some of them behind the shield, but more often than not, right out there so everybody can see. And you just start counting damage, and we just see where it goes. This is really cool. This is really neat. You've got a lot of material right here to work with. And you're probably seeing how I can improve on this, how you can improve on this, how you can do a lot of things with just these few ideas. And you probably want to rename him something other than Dogen the Dragon. Doesn't quite have a nice ring to it, but again, I just kind of pulled it out of my butt. But it's not terrible. Now, either way, if Dogen lives or dies, if he lives, great, because this is going to just add to the next idea I have. If he died previously, the first time through, well, that's okay because I have someone else to take his spot. But if the players turned him in, and you know, I would definitely tell the players, the king, say, well, if you bring me Dogen the Dragon, you know, I'll give you all this extra money, and if you bring him back alive, I'll even do something extra special for you. Maybe he gives somebody a really nice magic item and then a couple of healing potions for the rest of the group. You know, something like that. And give them an incentive on both ends. You just flat out say, and I'll give you double XP if you can bring him back alive. If you think you can bring him back alive, challenge the players. Say, basically you're saying, I don't think you can bring Dogen back alive, but I'll give you double XP if you can. But don't worry about it, you'll still get XP, but if you can bring him back alive, man, I'd like to see that. I bet you can't do it. Whew! Players are going to be on that. So give it a shot, see what you think. Now you can start creeping up more towards 6 months, a year, very, very easily, with him pulling the strings and then having little false adventures thrown in there, little side quests that don't involve him or drop clues as to what's going on. And maybe these bandits, maybe it's just not this town. Maybe they plague towns all along the coast because he's got a flying carpet, so he might have been able to establish a whole network. And even if he is dead from the first adventure, doesn't matter, his will is already set. And he has captains and lieutenants, and you can still run the Deep Spawn as loyal to him, and the bandits as well. It's just the lower guys now bump up and take over. Now, doesn't matter if he lives or dies, because the next thing I have is the Princess Ilia. Dogen didn't kidnap her, he rescued her. Dogen the Dragon and Princess Ilia are secretly lovers. Yes. Princess doesn't care for her family or her father or mother. For whatever reason, somehow she met Dogen. She knows who he is. They fell in love, like real love. And he's not like mind controlled or anything. They're just crazy in love with each other. So he didn't kidnap her. He came to bring her back to live with him in his hideout. Now that seacoast hideout wasn't very good, but maybe that's because he was buying time while he settles a few things here, and then him and her would hop on his carpet whoosh, and fly to the next biggest town, maybe where he has a bigger setup. And so Princess Ailea, if she's still alive, she's gonna maybe help Dogan escape. And maybe he'll kidnap, in quotations, her again, and they'll run off together again. But this time they won't be in town, they'll be in a different town. And so the players have to quest again, but they still, if she disappears with Dogan a second time, you still make it look like, and she's gonna make it look like, they're both gonna make it look like that she was kidnapped again to take heat off of her. But really, she's as much a mastermind as he is. And they're both in it as partners, 50-50. Now, if Dogan has died, she's not going to be happy. And from the beginning, remember, they were in love, 50-50, they're partners. Now she's the head. And what can we do to get around the players? Well, first of all, you always want to keep her in the background. Give her something cool, like a cloak of invisibility. She's rich, she can afford it. Or Dogan found it wherever he found the flying carpet, and now she has the cloak of invisibility and can easily sneak in and out of the kingdom or the castle and go wherever she needs to, talk to whoever she needs to, speak with the deep spawn, speak with the bandits. I mean, and if bandits have access to the castle, she can get messages to and from. It's so easy, and you could run with that for a long time, and it might not ever come out that it is the princess. Even with Dogan dead, maybe it's already been established. He's been operating in the area for a while now, and only recently has he really become known as the dragon, and only really has he really been kind of flexing his muscles and becoming known to people as Dogan the dragon. And there are going to be more of these bandits, and as players go to the other towns and they hear similar things, they're going to say, oh, we know who these guys are, we'll take care of them. And if you've had Dogan operating for any length of time, and remember, you can, a lot of this is, you can just back up and just say, well, this is what's been happening. You don't have to have this pre-planned. I've been literally, as I'm laying it out, going back and saying, oh, this is the backstory because I can make it work. I don't have this pre-planned. This is how it is. This is as I'm running it, I'm coming up with ideas, which are giving me more ideas because it keeps snowballing. So again, all these guys are established. These bandits are established up and down the coast at various towns. So it's a pretty big network, almost like their own personal thieves guild, but they don't involve outsiders. And then, here's the thing, is at some point, Dogan has actually encountered a real lycanthrope, or maybe a small pack of them. So maybe there are 2 or 3 lycanthropes running around, and they do go from town to town and occasionally check in on all these groups. So they're the mid-tier guys. They're like these lieutenants or captains, and they're in touch with all these guys, but they never let themselves all be known all at once. So you could have like 3 lycanthropes, but only one is ever actually could possibly be encountered at one time, even though they might all travel from town to town, or they all might split up. So that way, once you resolve this, the players go to another town and they say, oh, we know all about these bandits and stuff and these lycanthropes. You don't have a werewolf problem. No, you got a bandit problem. So we'll take care of that for you real quick. And they go out there and they get their butt kicked by a real werewolf, and maybe somebody gets turned into a werewolf, or maybe he just gets outright killed, whatever you need. And then now players go like, oh my God, this is so much more crazier than I thought. Exactly. And then we're not even done with the deep spawn, because these guys are underwater. The players don't know if they've taken care of the whole thing. They can only assume. Maybe there's a small reef out there somewhere. So maybe they go out there and they weed out all the deep spawn, and they think because nothing else happens in the next few days or weeks, they think maybe they got all the deep spawn. But really, there's probably more deep spawn out there, just waiting to help Dogan and or Princess Ailea. And they should have the ability to summon them and talk to them. Maybe it's some kind of amulet they dip in the water and it brings a deep spawn to them, or a couple of deep spawn, or as many as they want, so that they can tell the deep spawn and converse with them and tell them what they want and what they need. Or maybe they pray to whatever god they both mutually worship, and you can keep this going for a while with the deep spawn. There is a lot of material happening here, and you can easily continue this deep spawn one for several sessions. You could keep this going 6, 7, 8 sessions easy, and going all up and down the coast. There's other reports of deep spawn, and you can have your players going up and down the coast trying to track down where the deep spawn are at if they're not local here. As the players become even more well known up and down the coast, their names and their deeds will travel to other kingdoms and other places, yet giving you more connections. And sailors will talk in town, and they'll go to other ports, and the players will be heard about again, and people will send messengers to ask their assistance in faraway lands. And I really think that you can easily take a one-shot, blow it up into a mini campaign, and from there, you already got so many ideas, it's easy to just keep running with the ball and make yourself a full-on campaign that'll last you easy 6 months or a year. And plus, remember, you've got, once you run a session, if you run a session once a week, you've got a whole week to think about it. Even if you don't write down a single note, you're going to be thinking about it. And all you need is one cusp of an idea, and then you can just run with it that next session, and then you'll start thinking of connections. Don't try to connect everything. Just start letting stuff play out. Keep doing these little one-shots and these ideas, and as you can see, you can do what I do and just slowly start linking all these ideas together and make them interconnected. And next thing you know, you've got a big campaign with little side adventures, a big meta plot. It's right there. And then this princess, man, there's no telling what you can do with her. Maybe she's secretly a sorcerer who, the only reason, and no one knows that she's a sorceress because she has wild magic. So she's taught herself. They won't know she's a sorceress, and then the players can be like, all right, Princess Ilea, we're taking you back to your father so we can punish you properly. And she's like, don't think so. Hold person, see you later. Or hold person, fireball. That's going to be a bad day, and the players are definitely going to want some vengeance for that. So that would be real cool, something to keep in your back pocket. And then you might ask, well, why doesn't she expose herself early on when the players are fighting her love and she sees her love killed? Well, it's going to be traumatic for her. At first, she's just playing the role of a frail, scared princess, and then she's shocked after her love gets killed, but she knows if she tips her hand, then the same thing can easily happen to her. So you wait and let her think about that vengeance and let it play it out. Yeah, think the long game. Think the long game. There's always a reason why someone doesn't do something, and sometimes they just freeze. Sometimes they're going to play the long game because they know, sure, they could fight to the death and take a few of the players with them, but it's not worth it because most people hang on to life as much as possible, no matter if you're good or bad. You want to keep living, and that's what she wants to do. So again, this is how I take a one-shot, turn it into a mini campaign, and turn around and turn it into a full-blown campaign. Is it perfect? Nah. Does it work? It does for me. Now, of course, in my notes, I will put a few more notes down, but a lot of times, this is pretty much what I got going on. And then I just throw down a couple side notes, a couple quick bullet statements. Dogon the dragon, human, appears as a dragon to people because it's dark. People misconstrue stuff, don't perceive it properly at night. He's got a ring that's fire, that's some kind of fire breathing or burning hands, and he's got a large flying carpet that makes him seem like a dragon, and you can hear the flap at night as he flies over people. He never does it during the day. And there you go. And you can easily build up a lot of mystique about various people very easily. And you can expand upon simple ideas very, very easily. And even if their master is gone, there's always captains, lieutenants to backfill. And you would think, wouldn't they just disband? Not necessarily. They might keep it going because if their master's dead, well, they got a good thing going. And if their master's dead, that doesn't mean the other half of the master, Princess Ilea, doesn't mean that they're not going to respect her, because maybe they know she's a powerful sorceress and she should be several levels higher than the players to make sure that they don't get her very well. And she's got to have a good spell list, and she definitely needs to have some cool talents and abilities. All right, so I think I'm pretty much going to wrap it there. I know it's going to be another kind of long video, but most of the Art of the Master are long videos. I'd like to thank you for stopping by and watching this episode of The Art of the Master. And if you haven't seen any of my other videos, definitely go check out my Art of the Master playlist. Again, I'm David Hunt, owner of GameMasters Guild, telling you to stay safe, play great games, and I'll see you real soon.